The Hoover Board of Education meeting is now called to order. You have before you the agenda for today's board meeting. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The agenda is adopted. Last night at the board meeting, the board voted to approve the public safety communications tower lease agreement with the city of Hoover. Due to changes in the wording of the document, the interim superintendent recommends that the board rescind that action. Do I have a motion to cancel the previous action? Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion, the action is rescinded. And then in reference to the public safety communications tower lease agreement, the interim superintendent recommends that the board approve the agreement in its original form. Do I have a motion to approve the original tower lease agreement?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. At this time, it is my pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Kendi Behrens. Dr. Behrens is supervising the Alabama Association of School Boards Search Committee. She is here tonight to share the results of the community survey. Dr. Behrens.
And it is my pleasure to be here this evening. Let me just briefly tell you who I am, because I don't believe I've met all of you yet. As Ms. Frazier said, I am currently working with the Alabama Association of School Boards. I conduct superintendent searches, facilitate those searches throughout our state when asked. I am a 35-year veteran educator, most recently as superintendent up in Florence, Alabama, tucked way up there in the northwest corner. I was superintendent there 9.5 years. I take this job very seriously because I do know that as the leadership goes, so goes an organization. We're progressing on schedule with our timeline, and I want to share that with you to let you know where we are in the process before I get into actually sharing the data from the meetings and the surveys that were conducted in this community. The stakeholder surveys, you'll see in January and February, you'll see more specifically information about those. Those were live online in January and February, as I mentioned. And I was here February 3rd, a week ago, to hold stakeholder meetings. And you'll see we had approximately 80 people total. You will also see the results of those meetings shortly. I'm here this evening to deliver those results, and on February 17th, a week from today, the job will be posted. That's on our schedule, unless there's crazy weather or something. All of that should happen on time. After I share the results this evening, the board will have a discussion about what exactly they want on that posting. And then my contact in Montgomery at the AASB office will actually post it live from there. And of course, with the internet, it goes all over the world, but it is a national search, so we'll be focusing nationally on finding the best and brightest candidates to bring forward to the board. I'll be back here, it'll be a while actually. It gets pretty quiet once the job is posted. There'll be a couple months where you won't hear much from us, and you might think, gosh, aren't those people doing anything? Well, once it's posted, that's when we're busy behind the scenes doing our work. And I say we because I have 3 colleagues who will be working with me, 2 of whom are retired superintendents. And actually, we have a new person we're bringing on board, Dr. Jan Harris, who's sitting right back here. She's shadowing me on this search. She's a former superintendent up in Coleman, and she'll be conducting searches on down the road as well. So she'll be helping us also as we screen the applications. We all go to Montgomery and we sit there as long as it takes to match the candidates who we believe, based on what you've told us, what you're looking for, and we will bring at least 5 names forward to your board. I will be back here to deliver those names, again tentatively, but we'll try to stick to this schedule, on April 14th. So that's when the big drum roll takes place, and I'll present the names, and then the board will be very, very busy for 3 weeks to a month in terms of interviewing and doing more vetting. We start the vetting process, there'll be more. So it'll be a very busy time for them. The interviews, tentatively, the interviews are set to be conducted the week of April 20th through 30th, more than 1 week. So sometime in that range, there will be public interviews. And by law, these interviews must be conducted in the open. This is a very transparent process. It's very systematic. There are no secrets, no surprises. So I want you to know that up front. I've given many of you my email address already. If you have questions along the way, never hesitate to contact me. It's planned right now for the new superintendent to begin June 30 or July 1. It's a very busy time, getting ready for the students to return, getting all of the personnel in place. And I'm just guessing that Dr. Reese will overlap probably a little bit with the new superintendent, so that there's a seamless transition from the interim to the new person. So that tells you a little bit about the process. It tells you where we are in the process. Now, with that, I want to begin sharing this information with you. And I actually have 2 PowerPoints, but don't panic. I think total of 38, 39 slides, all in all. And I'm going to begin with the one that AASB published, the organization I'm working with, because these are the results of the meetings that were held. Now, the title says community. We're using that in a very broad term here because all of the stakeholders, we included parents, we included other community members, those who might not be current parents in the system. We had employees, and I'll break that down for you in just a minute. But I'm sorry, I keep getting frog in my throat. AASB worked with New South Research to conduct both an online survey and a series of meetings. The online survey also had a telephone component to it that will be explained in a little bit. And we wanted to allow multiple opportunities for parents, employees, and other community members to voice their opinions about what the board should be looking for as they go through this process. The survey focused on skills, experience, and personal traits the new leader will need in order to be successful here. The open meetings allowed us to probe a little bit deeper, and they also generated a variety of comments and ideas that just because of the very nature of the survey might not have been mentioned in a survey, or might not have been reflected in the survey. Although I'll tell you, you are going to see a lot of overlap, which means that we always like to have, when we see results that concur, we feel like we have even a better picture, and you're going to see a lot of concurrence between the two, the meeting results and the forms that people filled out there and the survey results. The results of the survey gave us quantitative data to work with, and you'll see a lot of numbers. In fact, what I share with you this evening is it's really going to be pretty overwhelming. It always is when we share the quantitative portion. That's why afterwards the board will get a hard copy of the results. You can take it home for your bedtime reading. And on the websites, Jason is going to be posting a copy of what I present so that you can go to the school website, the district website, and you can really take your time and go through very carefully these data. But anyway, you can look at the numbers and you'll get a good sense of the community sentiment. And the stakeholder meetings had far fewer people involved, like I mentioned earlier. Not quite 80, I believe 78. Now there were some coming and going out the back, and a couple people came twice, so that's why my number is, I'm saying, approximately 80. But you'll see it's a much larger number of people who participated online, which is great. So the quantifiable data came from the survey. The qualitative data, where I went through and looked for themes and trends, that's what we were looking for, those patterns that emerged from the meetings. I don't know whether the opinions voiced at the meetings represent a groundswell, but I do, however, believe that the people who did come to the meetings care passionately about the school system. And I'd say the same for those who took the time to fill out the online survey. As I mentioned, the meetings were held on February 3rd, and those are the real results I'm going to share with you first. The board will use this information not only when they're developing their interview questions, but as I mentioned, I will be using it with my colleagues in Montgomery when we're looking for the candidates, the top candidates. Oh dear. Not sure why that didn't move. Let me see. That's right. Keith? Jason? He's just not wanting to tap down. Let's just put it down. I tell Jason to stay nearby. Thank you, Jason. When I have my own laptop, this laptop is so much more sophisticated than mine, so nothing's looking the same as down here. But anyway, the engagement meetings, as I mentioned, we had parents and community, elected officials, school and system administrators, school support staff, and the teachers. The meeting responses, the desired skills and traits that emerged most frequently, and these are not in any rank order. They wanted someone who demonstrates integrity, is approachable and a good listener, makes informed decisions, focusing on what is best for students, not only academically, but otherwise as well. A progressive thinker, somebody who comes in with a vision and can plan strategically with our stakeholders here, and then implement that plan. Somebody who has a lot of courage. You can't be in these jobs as superintendent and not have a lot of courage. Somebody who can uphold difficult decisions and advocate for the district, understands funding, helps to increase the funding, practices responsible budgeting, and will work closely with the CSFO, and somebody who will work effectively with the board and all types of people and groups. And I was noted a number of times, particularly city leaders. Communication was very important, being an effective communicator, and someone who can help restore a positive image. There was a perception that the image needs to be improved and that there be more cohesiveness, and to increase public support and confidence in the district. Furthermore, it was repeatedly stated that the diversity of the people and cultures within the district must be embraced, ensuring that all students are educated to the best of the district's ability, and that this new leader will set high expectations for self, employees, students, and parents. There were comments, and I did have a rather large administrator group, but there were a number of comments about the district's organizational chart being looked at, that personnel be assigned according to their strengths and effectiveness, and that employees then be empowered to do the job, but there needs to be a sense of accountability, not only with the leader, but with everyone else, and that changes be made when accountability has not been met. Now, fairly, I italicized because the word fairly is like beauty, it's in the eye of the beholder. So I caution you with that word. But a fair allocation of resources to the various schools and programs, and what one person perceives to be fair may not be what another does. But I can tell you, as a former superintendent, that is one of the biggest challenges, is to allocate resources so that all students benefit. And you want not for it to just be perceived to be fair, you want it to be as fair as possible. And then it was stated, again, a theme that we saw, that facility usage needs to be reviewed, and the needs need to be looked at with plans made for necessary necessary changes such as growth areas, and I did have a large fine arts group, the morning community group, and the way I know that is because one of the parents said, raise your hand if you're a fine arts parent, and most of the hands went up, and that was fine, no problem. In terms of experience, it was stated that the person should be a proven district leader, preferably in a community comparable to Hoover, somebody who understands education thoroughly, preferably having been an educator, and someone who understands the business side of education as well. And the last question that was asked when I met with these groups, and this was on the form that participants completed, I asked for the imminent challenges, and same thing over and over. I believe 2 of these were taken care of for the time being last evening, so that shortens the list already. But of course it was rezoning, busing, unitary status, cleaning service issues, closing achievement gaps, and I would guess every school district in the state would have that listed, and again funding, which again is first and foremost on every district's mind. So I'm going to ask the board, I know we are not taking public comments tonight, but does the board have any question for me about this portion, the meetings that were conducted and the ensuing results? Okay, like I said, you'll get a hard copy, and really pretty straightforward. All right, so now I'm going to transition to the results that were collected and analyzed by the New South research folks. And see if this gets us where we need to go. Again, the dates there of when the survey was conducted. The purpose, very similar to what we were doing, looking for what skills, traits, and experience the stakeholders want in the new superintendent. There were 927 surveys completed, very good. And even the number I had that came to the meetings, 80, that's really better than most districts. I know it sounds small because you have nearly 90,000 people in your community, but oftentimes at the meetings, even though they're well advertised, and they are during the day and people are at work, I understand, although we did have one held after work hours, that 80 was not a number to be concerned about at all. And this is very good. You can see you had 201 were surveyed by telephone. Those were community members. 443 surveyed online, and 200 parents rather, and 283 employees online. And there was a margin of error of 3.2%, which indicates that indicates the likelihood that the results from the sample are within 3.2% of what you would expect to get if you could query the entire Hoover population. So that's what the margin of error, for those of you who don't have your fingers in research often. Now these are key points. The way this presentation is put together, they started out with the key points, and then we're going to break it down so you can see how how they arrived at the key points. So I'm not going to read all of that to you, but I'm going to tell you that when it says unaided, that's an open-ended question where the participants would type in the answer. Where it says aided, that means that there was a list, or there were choices, and the participant would select a choice. So again, integrity, interesting, huh? Integrity at the top, which was similar to the results that were from the meetings. And honesty was ranked number 2. Integrity was second highest rated attribute, second only to student focused. And again, those were very comparable to what we saw in the other study. Participants wanted someone who's experienced, and the importance, let's see, fourth highest rated attribute, it's important, supported throughout the survey results. So other than student safety, expertise and challenging for academic success, listening to constituents, and managing the school system budget are critical areas of expertise. Past experience was said to be critical based on participants' input, with experience as a classroom teacher, an executive leader, and principal all rated in the top the identified needs clearly revolved around trust, improving academic achievement, and managing finances. And I'll give you a minute just to read through the rest of that. So next, we're going to look at what personality traits do you want in a new Hoover school superintendent. And this is a graphic. If you look at the largest font words, it's a visual word graphic. So if you're looking at the size of the words and they're the largest words, those were perceived to be the most important. Just another way of illustrating to you what people stated on the surveys. So you can see that integrity, very, very important. All of these were important, but some were not as important. Communicators seemed to be in the meetings, and from the forms that I collected, communicator seemed to rank a little bit higher than it did here. But again, any of us who have been a superintendent, there's nothing on there that's not important. It's all important. Next, just another way of looking at the data. The question was, what's the most important quality, one word, that you would want in a new school superintendent? This is where they typed in the answer. And when suggesting one quality the participants believe is needed in a new superintendent, integrity, honesty, leadership, experienced, and successful educator emerged, as well as transparent. Transparent, however, was mentioned by parents and employees only. Then the statement was, mark the 5 qualities you think are most important for a new superintendent. And this was the overall group. And again, there was a list from which to select. And the respondents chose student-focused, 60%, integrity, successful lead educator, more frequently as the top desired attributes in a new school superintendent. The attributes chosen with the least frequency were articulate, inclusive, and friendly. Same data, again, presented in a different way. This time it's disaggregated by group. And if you look again, you'll see that for the parents, the top attribute was student-focused, while the community and employees chose integrity as the top attribute. Employees rated communicator and collaborative and decisive higher, and accountable and student-focused lower than the other groups. The community rated knowledgeable, a good listener, and friendly higher, and rated fiscally responsible, strategic thinker, visionary, and collaborative lower than the other groups. Now, we're not here to discuss why this might be. It's hard for me to go through this chart and not have theories, just based on my experience as a superintendent. But, you know, we're really, you could sit and have wonderful discussions over some of these topics. And I think that would behoove the new superintendent with the board and with the leadership team, looking at these and looking at why maybe, you know, some of these results are the way they are, what can be done to improve in areas in which you want to improve. But our purpose today is to give a profile, kind of a snapshot of what we're looking for as we go forward for this process. So not a bad idea that this document would be used also as the district goes through strategic planning. So what expertise should the new superintendent have? Doing it again, Jason. Just gets tired every once in a while. That's a lot. But the next screen will say, you'll see it, what expertise should the new superintendent have? I'll just go ahead and tell you what it's going to. The top 5 qualities picked overall, with over 3 out of 4 choosing very important, were ensuring student safety, challenging students to to achieve academic success, creating a positive environment for employees, and managing a system within a budget, and finding it 75% challenging the system to improve. That's overall. We're not breaking anything out or anybody, any group out here. Which of the following are your top 3 characteristics? Overall, when choosing the top 3 of all the areas of expertise, challenging students to achieve academic success was most frequently chosen. Listening to parents and community at 37% next, and then ensuring student safety, third. The participants were asked then to rate each characteristic as very important, somewhat, or neither important or unimportant, or not important, and they're disaggregated by group again. Now the community respondents chose all the areas of expertise at a higher rate than the other groups. The employees rated challenging students to achieve academic success at 79%, challenging the system to improve 69%, and listening to parents and the community at 51%. Leading innovation, you can see, is at 42%, and balancing extracurricular activities at 26%. And that was at a lower rate than the other 2 groups. Parents rated creating a positive environment for employees at 70%, and balancing local priorities and state initiatives at a lower rate than the other 2 groups at 38%. So what experience did these people believe the new superintendent should have? And they were asked to, again, strongly agree, somewhat agree, neither, etc. Over half the respondents rated the new superintendent should have been a classroom teacher. Most important, that was most important, 55%. However, when combining the responses for somewhat to strongly agree, experience as an executive leader slightly outrated classroom teacher, 85% compared with 82%. And that was considered as their most important area of expertise. The least important factor was that they should have experience in the Hoover school system, somewhat to strongly agree at 23%. So the classroom teacher, and again, speaking from experience, having been in the classroom and juggling the business side and allocating those resources fairly, that is just an everyday challenge of a leader of a school district. So our task will be to find people who can do this very, very well. You strongly agree, some would agree, neither agree nor disagree, or disagree with the following. And here we have it broken out by groups. The parents rated the new superintendent should have once been a classroom teacher. The new superintendent should have experience as a principal, 36%. And the superintendent should have past experience as a superintendent, and that was a lower rate than the other groups. The community rated several of these areas higher than the other groups, with highest degree should be a doctorate, 44%, and highest degree should be a master's degree at 43%, showing the highest difference over both groups and the overall average. Now, when asked what are the most important needs for Hoover City Schools to address, participants chose the highest need as maintaining a culture of trust, with a definitely need to address at 76% frequency. Maintaining the system's finances at 68%, and raising academic achievement followed at 62%. The lowest need was perceived to be implementing more technology for the classroom at 25%. So looking at it presented this way, the needs for Hoover schools overall, the participants rated maintaining a culture of trust, raising academic achievement, and managing the system's finances as the top 3. Are you starting to hear the same things over and over again? So that's definitely what we will focus on and what the board will focus on as they go forward with the process. And that's what you want. You want those things to emerge. Which of the following do you believe the new superintendent needs to work on to improve in Hoover City Schools? And the needs for the schools by group, employees rated several needs significantly lower across groups, including challenging high-achieving students, 40%, challenging low-achieving students at 45%, and raising academic achievement at 47%. The community, however, rated several needs at a significantly higher rate of need, including challenging low-achieving students to improve at 85%, raising academic achievement at 78%, and managing the system's finances at 75%. Parents rated rezoning to maximize resources, 31%, at a lower rate than the other groups, which probably does not come as a huge surprise, would it? Now, they were asked, and this is not something we asked when we were having the meetings. Interesting. The question is, what grade would you give for Hoover City School System? And the grade for the schools overall, 23% of the respondents gave the system an A, 50% gave the system a B, for an overall 84 or B rating. The community list graded the school system highest with an 86 average, while the employees listed average, the employee list averaged an 84, and the parents averaged an 83. Now, the last two slides, I believe the last two, if I remember right, are concerning the demographics. So who are these people who took these phone calls and were surveyed by phone or completed the online survey? What is your magic touch? I'm touching the same button that you are on. It just wants to get stuck. 72% of the participants were female. I can see it's so kind of 85% had a 4-year degree. 41% are under the age of 45, but if you look at the 41% and 34% underage, you have 75% of the participants less than 55, which of course that would account for many parents, of course, and people who are concerned about school-age children. And teachers oftentimes employees often fall in that age category also. Currently, 62% have a child in the school district, and a little over half of the students were in middle and high school, 45% elementary, fairly evenly distributed there in terms of what grade span the parents, the children are of the parents who participated. And then it asks, are you faculty, employee, administration, or none of the above? It's kind of hard because so many of the people, everybody here in this room, except those of us who live out of the community, our community. So people sometimes, it's difficult for them to decide, am I a parent, am I considered an employee because I work in the system, or am I a community member? So you just have to take those are tough questions. But that gives you a little bit of an overview of the demographics for this particular research study. And finally, the last page, again, you have it broken up. The N is the sample size. So you can just take a look through there, and once again, you'll see how many of the parents were female and male, likewise with community employees, how the educational level is broken down among the 3 groups, etc. I'll give you just a minute to look at that. Just another way presenting the same data, but looking at it somewhat differently. So you had good participation, you did, and I'm very pleased with that, and I hope that you are also. And I think that even without looking back at the hard copy that I'll give you of this, some of these things will stick in your mind. Some of them, there may be some surprises in there may not be surprises. I just want to reiterate that there are so many awesome things going on in this district. Every district has room to improve. There's not a district in the nation that does not have room to improve. And anything that appeared as a concern or an imminent challenge, they're all doable. They're all doable. And so I just think that this district is set on a good course, and you have a wonderful interim, and I believe that getting a permanent person in here to lead the pack and soar ahead, just great things can take place. So that concludes the results of the data gathering that AASB did and that New South Research did. And as you go through the data, if you have questions, board members, holler at me or anyone else out there. But I will have hard copies there, and if you are with the media and you want a copy, an electronic copy of what I just presented, the 2 PowerPoints, if you would just see Jason, he will get those to you. And then again, if you have questions, holler at us. So I thank you very much. Unless board members, if you have questions now or later, or it's mind-boggling. It's a lot. It's really a lot to assimilate at one time. It is every time we present the data. So don't feel like you're alone. Thank you. We begin our portion of this.
If not, at this time, there are, for now, there's basically 4 questions that, these 4 questions have been given to the board ahead of time. Nothing has been discussed ahead of time, so just be prepared for the answers. That's all I can tell you. The very first thing that we're going to start with, first question. Will the future superintendent be required to live in our district? Mr. Kelly, I'll start with you. Yes or no?
I would hope that our superintendent lives in our community. However, I'd rather his talents for this system be more important than the fact that we require him to live here.
Okay. Mr. Cooper?
Yes. He or she.
Okay. Mr. Presley?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Absolutely.
And I would have to agree. I feel like the future superintendent should be required to live in our district. I know all school board members are required to live in the district. City councilmen are required to live in the district, so I think that is a question that we can definitely put as a yes. The second question, will future superintendent's children be required to attend Hoover City Schools? Mr. Murphy?
I think that's a parental decision. Some parents choose to put their kids in a smaller setting for whatever reason. So I don't know about that portion of it. I think that's going to be a parental decision. Of course, if they live here, I don't think they should be in Alabaster, of course, anything like that. So that's a parental decision.
Mr. Presley?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Expected but not required. There are considerations. Could be religious, could be some kind of special needs child, could be whatever, but expectation would be yes, but not an absolute requirement.
Mr. Kelly?
I agree with Mr. Cooper, almost the same notes I have here. Unless some extenuating circumstances, I would expect that the children would attend our school.
Okay, I guess my thought on this was pretty much what Mr. Cooper had just indicated. One thing that when a superintendent is hired, whether it be a he or a she, the spouse may not be coming with the superintendent at the time, and if there's children, for whatever reason, cannot move here, children are in another school district, I would not want that to prohibit a superintendent from being able to come. Also, the other spouse could be an educator, and possibly, I know we have different situations, even in our own school, where possibly one parent is a teacher in Hoover City Schools and one may be in Mountain Brook Schools. So therefore, a student may be in Hoover, a student may be in Mountain Brook. So is it safe to say that for a yes or no to this particular question, that would be a no for the majority?
Only encourage, but understand situations.
Dr. Behrens, do we have to have a yes or no for that, or will that suffice?
The word encouraged can be put on the posting.
Okay?
Because again, you don't want any surprises for your candidates. You want them to know what your expectations are. If that's what I'm hearing, that you're encouraging him or her to have the children come into the school district, that's the word I would use, encourage.
Okay. But would not be a deal breaker if the children were not, correct?
Right, and I think of a case, a case where the child's a senior and wants to finish school in wherever they're living now and stay with grandmother, well, that's understandable. And, unless there are extenuating circumstances, you're encouraging it, you're hoping they will, but a lot of different things can take place that could possibly prevent this, where either all the children or one out of the family. So, if that's the word you want to use, encourage, that's the one that we'll put on the posting.
I would say expectation with considerations for things that fall out, that are unusual, or personal needs. They're expected to, why would they not be expected to go there? Of course, if there are others.
Whatever word you all want, I don't, let me choose your word.
I say expected but not required, based upon mitigated circumstances.
Can we remove that?
Joe?
Okay.
Mr. Preston, you okay with that?
Got it.
Any other comments on number 2? If not, number 3. Salary range we are willing to pay future superintendent. One thing that AASB recommended is that we decide on a base salary range with perks being negotiable. Just to give you a base, Mr. Craig's base salary as of December 31st, 2014 was $183,901. Just for a talking starting point, do we want to offer same salary range as Mr. Craig, lower than Mr. Craig, or more than Mr. Craig? Mr. Craig's total compensation package for 2014 was $208,601. But again, Dr. Behrens, I understand this is a base salary range that we're looking for now, correct?
Yes, and then when it comes time for contract negotiation, then generally the travel, the sick leave, all that, those types of compensations are discussed at the time of the contract negotiation. So now, yes, a base salary or a range of salaries.
Okay. Mr. Presley, you want to start? Or shall I say, who would like to start? Who has a preference?
Something like salary is an interesting thing. It's just a benchmark. It's not, it's certainly a measurable thing that somebody can look at and see. Mr. Craig had not had an increase in his salary that the board had given him outside for the past 7 or 8 years. So 183 may be a little old. When we look at the salary schedules for all the superintendents that you guys gave us, it's all over the board. We've got people making more than Amy Craig made with a system of 3,000 kids. And nowhere near the challenge. So it's salary thing, it's just, I think there's too much focus on it, because the negotiating process on, you want to give them a one-year contract or a three-year contract. We want a probationary contract that's 1 year or something longer. Both have values to us and to the candidate. And then start tacking on all the benefits. You know, Andy went from 183 to 208, so his other ancillary benefits that all superintendents do. A lot of that's negotiated based upon needs. And there's a value to the candidate, a value to the system, to the district. But when you look at some other things, the data showed us, you just showed us the data that said, we're talking about trust, which is really climate, school climate, district climate. We're talking about academic achievement. We're talking about financial responsibility. Those three things. All those things can be measured. So I would like to, entertain some discussion about, let's talk about a salary or salary range, but let's talk about some things that can be earned based upon achievement by the superintendent. You guys do a wonderful job of vetting the superintendent, but everybody coming to this environment may not be, may be good, maybe bad, maybe challenged, maybe not. So I don't know if this is the answer, but compensation, if I were a superintendent and I was really strong and ready to go take on a challenge, I'd say, I'll take on the challenge to give me some perks on the back end of this thing. Let me prove myself, to prove to you what I can do, and above and beyond basic expectations. Certainly you want academic achievement to be a basic expectation. Certainly you want everybody to get along, and financial accountability is just a given as well. But I think I had a whole list of perks, I won't go through them all here, or incentives that are measurable things that could be used as part of the negotiation process to really entice the ones that really want to go after a big way. So 185 is a minimum. Top end, I think, is it's based upon certainly the qualifications, based upon what's negotiated out, and it's also based upon, I'd like to say based upon performance. Because we're doing these evaluations in public, and we can do an evaluation that includes measurable metrics, so I think an opportunity to really step it up for everybody and be a leader in the state in that regard, number one, and we can very best to figure it out there. Good spot.
Dr. Behrens, I know with the salaries, the superintendent salary comparisons that you sent to us, they were all within the state of Alabama. Let's say, for instance, well, let me back up for a second. We attended a conference recently at the Winfrey. There was a superintendent, I believe, from Miami-Dade County. Gentlemen, was that correct? Probably one of the most outstanding superintendents, and I've been attending conferences for 10 years. Probably one of the most outstanding superintendents I've ever heard. Derek was brave enough to go up to him at the end of the conference just to see if there was any interest there. And I believe his salary was $275,000. His district, y'all help me if you remember, was it, how many students? I mean, the statistics were off the charts. I mean, it was a system much larger than what we have, obviously. So I guess my point is, all of the ranges that you gave us were within the state of Alabama. Let's say someone from North or South Carolina, are there ranges higher there? In other words, if there's a superintendent that's looking to come into the Deep South, will they even entertain looking at this position if we're under $200,000, let's say?
Well, that's a tough question. Cost of living factors in too. Now, in Miami, the cost of living, I would think, would be fairly high. I don't know. I have to check that out. So, even that rule doesn't always apply. It's so difficult to say. That's why we encourage a word such as negotiable after base amount, because I'm just going to throw out, so Boston. What if somebody from the South moved to Boston, they were a successful superintendent up there, hypothetical, I know,
Who would you pay, I'm sorry.
Well, no, I think one of the things she's alluding to, I think, is, you can certainly come up with some kind of base salary, but if you pick an arbitrary number for the high end, and even if you say it's negotiable, you become self-limiting in some regard if you got the ceiling there. So that's why I was saying, hey, we'll start here. Let's just talk about how much you think you're worth.
Give me
Allows that.
looking at a lot of comments Ms. Cooper stated, and so you're talking about pay for performance, which is an awesome idea. I don't know how that works within education at all, but, there's a greater value of the living in our data of what our school system, parents, and employees are wanting, and we're trying to get to a certain level. We're trying to exceed expectations. I don't know if you put a value on that. I think the value comes on the back end of the performance. And from that point on, the incentives really equate out. But from this point until June 30th, we have a short period of time. So we're going to look at pay for performance, traits or bullet points, however you want to put it. We got to come up with that now. Determine how we're going to move forward. And again, I totally agree with that.
And do you pay someone with a doctorate degree more than you would someone without?
Generally, that's the case, yes. It's okay to put the word performance incentives. I mean, in the posting, there could be a statement in there, and you don't have to have them defined yet. Student achievement, most of us in our field know that student achievement would be one, but there are, many parameters the district can develop for those incentives. But, that can be part of the posting, just stating that, the performance incentives.
And I'll say something along the lines of, based on experience as well, with performance incentives. To me, a salary range just, you're boxed in. I think we need to have the ability to move that where we need to move it. If we're talking about the Miami-Dade superintendent, surely we're going to, he's going to anticipate, and we're going to anticipate having to pay him more than we are if you have no experience whatsoever as superintendent. And to me, if you throw a salary range out there, you really box yourself in. That's why I was struggling with the question that was asked. I don't know that we need to post a range.
You don't have to post a range, but by law, we have to put something, some numeric value, whether it's a minimum, whether it's just a number that says negotiable, but by law, we have to put something on the posting, unless that's changed just recently. I don't know, Dr. Reese, if you know it was such that we had to put a salary on there. Have you heard this language change? But it doesn't have to be a range. It doesn't have to be a beginning, end, and end.
Put $1 on there.
You can do it and find out who's coming for the passion.
Never the government applies.
They need passion.
200.
But looking at it, you stated that, we don't have to develop a number. I think prior to superintendent, if he or she coming in, we need to understand what parameters they need to meet within X amount of period of time, so that when we set up for.
But you gotta get them in the door first, though. That's my only concern, someone's, you know what I'm
That could be
saying?
in the contract. That could all be hammered out of the contract, and I would recommend that.
Because someone may not even look if we're at $185 or $200,000. They may not even, if we're truly committed, and I think, Dr. Behrens, you met with all of us individually, I think we're truly committed to getting the best superintendent that we possibly can. The students in this city deserve that, the teachers, everyone deserves that. I feel like we're at a crossroads, and it's time to step up and get the best that we possibly can. So that's my only concern is, you do this, we're kind of looking to you for guidance. If we look at the salaries that were given to us within the state of Alabama, if we felt strongly that we were going to get someone from within the state, we probably would not have taken such an aggressive role to do a nationwide search. I don't know how the gentlemen feel about this, and I have no clue who we're gonna end up with. But for some strange reason, I don't think it's gonna be somebody around here.
Which very, very well could be. Is the someone mentioned 185, would that be possibly a minimum?
If it's a random number, but
I think so.
I'm agreeable
Put
to that.
185,
You could put minimum beside it, and to be negotiated beside that.
most of us are in business, or have been, you know, in business, if I were interviewing someone for this position, I'll be looking for a return on investment. What they're gonna produce, what they're gonna return to our company. You know, the return on investment here is the education of our children. And as we've seen in these surveys, it's with integrity, honesty, and responsibility. So, we're looking, like I'm sure our community is a return for the money we spent by our taxpayers to get an educated child. So, I guess we don't know for sure what it will take to get the person that is going to do that, give us our best return on investment.
Well, let me tell you the kind of calls that I get, okay? If a job is posted, I'm just hypothetically going to say the 185. If it says I'm posting 185 minimum to be negotiated, performance incentives, development contract or something like that. Okay, I get a call from, let's say around Atlanta, and someone says, you know, I'm really interested in that job, but I'm making $245 right now. Is this board serious about negotiating? Usually, if somebody has concern about the salary, they'll call and ask me, and by this point, I know you well enough in the process to say, yes, they're serious about negotiating. They mean what they say about negotiating. I don't make any promises to you, of course, but then that person goes ahead and applies. It's very common for candidates, if they have a concern with the salary, to call and ask that.
if they call and ask you that, I would say, not a problem. Are you willing to put some skin in the game? That is performance-based incentives, if you will. But I will say this, the caution, I would say if I was recruiting a superintendent under this concept of performance-based incentives, if you will, is that it's easy to incent the wrong behavior from a culture perspective. So that's why when we talk about trust culture, we talk about academic achievement, we talk about financial responsibility. That culture piece is going to be something that's measured too, because you can come in there as a till of the hunt and get those incentives, knock them out of the park at the expense of everybody else who's employed here. So they also need to know it's about metrics that are hard metrics, that is dollars and cents and ACT Aspire, and those kind of things. But it's also about a climate survey, if you will, that says you get it, you get everybody's engagement, and everybody's moving together in lockstep.
Because they can actually focus on that parameter, and lose focus on everything else. And, just to gain that extra funding on their salary anyway.
I don't think money's an issue within reason if performance justifies it.
So do we want to set a, let me ask you a question, do we want to set a base salary range? Or just a base salary number?
What would you be willing to pay that guy from Miami Dade? Hypothetically.
I need data.
Yeah,
You saw the data here.
Okay, what we had to come up with a number?
185 base plus negotiated performance incentives and benefit package.
Okay, is that now, and Andy Craig was 83?
Here's 183,901, his total compensation package was 208,601. So basically, you would word this where we are serious about getting.
Yes, and, I mean, I can take what I've heard you say, and then Susan will put together a draft. Nothing will be sent out. The brochure that will go out with the posting itself, none of it goes out before it will go to you as board members. It does not require a board vote. It will go, it's for information, you'll look at it, and you'll give feedback to Susan
to agree to 185 minimum to give room to negotiate. You asked my opinion after the discussion we've had.
Dr. Aaron, just out of curiosity, did anyone from the stakeholders community, anybody mention or ask you what, make comments about what they thought? Offer up anything?
Money was never mentioned.
I know it wasn't in the survey, but you didn't
It
mention
was
it.
never brought up.
I know there's no public participation, but we're gonna have to break the rules here for just a second, gentlemen, if that's okay. Because we have some important people in this audience, and that come to all the meetings all the time. Will someone offer some suggestions? Are we on the right track? Yes, sir.
I agree with Earl. Basically, you want something measurable. I agree that the 185 is a slightly more than what Andy Craig was getting. The word negotiable, incentives, it to me sounds like a complete package.
I agree. I think managing by objective and setting clear-cut objectives for achievement is the way to go, and I think it's a great suggestion by Earl.
Carlotta, this is Carlotta, he is an elected official. You can give your credentials which go beyond school service. What would be your take if you all offered that up to us? He is not from who?
No, I'm from Jackson County, and I'm on the school board, president of the board. I think he did a great job. Those areas are all of the areas he should be covered. That was fantastic. Very impressive. With this size system, I think the 185, but I'm sorry, you get your name, gentleman, to your left there. I know I've talked to some other school board members, and the base salary and then anything above that is on incentives, measurable items that the superintendent either achieves or does not achieve, and anything above that, I think that's a great idea. And I know one of the members of the association board of directors, David Best, that's the way they're doing that in his county. That's prevalent throughout the state, and that's a real good idea. I agree with that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jody?
Can I ask the lady here a quick question? It's easy to notice a national championship as an incentive, but do you see other systems that do this and any difficulty in measuring? And I think Mr. Cooper's comments are fantastic, but what kind of issues have you seen or could you foresee with doing packages like that?
Right, since the Accountability Act was passed some years back, it's not uncommon at all for incentives performance-based incentives to be built in. Some of those are very measurable, such as the student achievement test scores. And then there are those that are the softer, subjective types of things where you must do opinionaires or those types of things, such as paper, that kind of stuff in that group. And you look for themes and trends. So you really can measure, it's just not numerically. You can measure how someone's doing in those, what we call soft areas, or the character areas, or the culture areas that you were mentioning. It's not uncommon at all. Now, the downside of it, we've all read in the news a few places where there was so much pressure. That was with principals, when pressure was put on them, they got incentives for test scores. And then there was some cheating that went on. I mean, that's the extreme downside. And it's rare. That truly is rare. And that goes back to someone's integrity.
Yes, ma'am.
But it's not uncommon, and I don't think it would surprise any superintendent. I would think anybody pretty much today, and Mr. Reese, Dr. Reese and Dr. Harris tell me if you differ from this, but I think any superintendent coming in would pretty much expect that there will be opportunities for performance-based incentives.
You know, the thing I was thinking about, everybody, the performance incentive thing, Jody, is one of these things, the national championship thing is not, back up. Within the job of superintendent, academic achievement is embedded in the doggone base salary. I mean, it is what it is. If you're not doing that, you shouldn't be here to begin with. opportunity to hit a real big stretch goal, to go from a Alabama Auburn winner to SEC championship to national championship, that stretch goal is what you really want somebody to go after, but not at the expense of everybody else in the district or the community. And I think we do these climate surveys for all stakeholders, much like they did here, and there's a way to get at that to make sure that you're not sacrificing one for the other.
Thank you.
Let me ask a question. If the minimum is 200,000 instead of 185,000, will you attract more interest?
Great question.
If it says negotiable beside it, and again, weigh in on your thoughts. If it says negotiable beside it, I don't think it will make much of a difference. If someone feels as though it's, they really can't take the job for various reasons unless, the expenses of moving, the spouse putting the job at home, et cetera, if they perceive that, the superintendents generally aren't shy, and he or she will say, I'm very interested, but I would need to get at least 200,000 to take this job, and here's why. So I don't think it's going to change your pool a whole lot if negotiable's there and they've confirmed with me that the board means negotiable, and it's not just a word that has no meaning. The board is serious. And I do get that call a lot. Are they serious about negotiable? Will they negotiate? I said, yes, this board will, for the last board.
I think the key word you use there is interested. If they're interested in his job, regardless of the fact they're going to put a phone call and contact somebody. So, regardless, I think that's the choice of words.
And you want somebody with that passion and that fire and that drive to come in here. And, money is one thing, but that is not the only thing that is going to, by any means, not the thing that's going to drive the person to fill out that application and apply for this district. Would you agree? I'm not going to agree. It's not just a job.
Ms. Farmer?
If we're really serious about going after the best, I think we would want to put that minimum salary at least as high or higher than anybody in our surrounding area. Because I think it sends the message. We're a larger school system other than Jefferson County and Shelby County, and I'm talking about city school systems. We're the largest school system around here. And if we put a minimum on that salary that's lower than any of our other surrounding city school systems, I think we immediately diminish how important this job is to us as a board and employees of our school system. I don't know what Mountain Brook and Homewood's getting right now, but I think it should be at least as high or perhaps a bit higher because we're larger. We have more complex issues in Hoover than any of the other surrounding school systems, city school systems. And if we want to, again, I don't know if we're going to attract from in-state or out-of-state, but I think it would send a strong message to our community that we're as committed to our superintendent as Mountain Brook is to their superintendent or Homewood is to their superintendent, my opinion.
I think it's a good point. Let me bring up something about that. We looked at all the data on all the superintendent salaries. It's much like football coaches. You really don't know what's all included. That's a base amount that's published. You don't know what kind of benefits are stacked in there. When the superintendent of Mountain Brook, I forget what he makes, probably less than that. 192. You got to know.
Excuse me, he makes how much? That's a base salary?
192, 360.
So, I'm not saying that's right or wrong here. That's a great discussion point because you don't want to raise the base so high that you limit, the flexibility on the other side for incentive based.
I think Dr. Pouncey in Jefferson County was a 208 base.
I think you're right. I think I heard
And
that.
I think his whole package ended up being about 250, two and a quarter, I don't remember exactly what it was.
245.
So, and they're twice the size of Hoover, student-wise. So, I think we're right in the ballgame with 185 for sure.
What do I consider going higher?
Homewood's 187. They got 3,000, something like this.
Mountain Brook was 190.
I can't confirm the
Stevie has two superintendents.
I had is 1 to 16 and only going. Oh, I'm sorry.
I think it's over 200,000.
Which is a brand new superintendent.
But go along with the contract. And there's all kind of things stacked in there, so it's not, that's a base salary in terms of cash, but there are things coming.
I would only give a reference to the numbers showing that our superintendent, our past superintendent, figures are accurate based on what we have. Use that as a reference point, this could be off, I'm not sure. This is my number too.
I guess my question is, are we prepared to go up $50,000 or $60,000? When we say we are serious about negotiation, because Ms. Barber, I agree with you 100%. If we're serious about getting the best superintendent, if we're at 185, if it's gonna take 225, 240 to get, are we prepared? I'm asking you now, are we prepared to do that?
In other words, you're gonna pay 240, 250 to get them in the door. You know what I'm saying?
I'm talking about total package,
Oh, okay.
total compensation.
You know, Barron said that they're gonna call, and if they say, are they serious about negotiating, then you say yes.
Yeah, because that's that's the impression I've gotten.
I would say big time.
You know,
I agree with Dr. Reese. I think 185 is your minimum, negotiable. Now that's your rock bottom minimum, and you may be. And the second issue is how far up would you be willing to negotiate, and that can then be negotiated. And it may be that you will have to go up $50,000, $60,000
Correct.
if you have someone who's very talented and qualified.
I wish you could have heard the guy that we heard from Miami at 275.
And that's why I like just the minimum. You know, who knows what the top will be? That's gonna be negotiated out, and that's not a decision that has to come here tonight.
You know, the guy from there today, he may have a house to buy him with this king pay. You don't know, that's just awful.
I was just impressed with him, Mr. Hoover.
He's impressive.
So you're hearing us loud and clear that we're very, very serious. That's the reason I said, are we willing to go $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 more than 185? We have an audience, gentlemen, y'all are saying, everyone is saying they're willing to do that, correct? Correct?
Yes.
because someone mentioned a minute ago, we don't need to put this in the posting, but generally it's a 3-year contract. I mean, it takes 2 years really to get things up and running. So ideally, they're 3-year, and I think probably Mr. Sweeney would recommend a 3-year contract also. If that person's doing an outstanding job, and you don't want him or her to go anywhere, after 2 years, you can go ahead and you can renegotiate another 3 after, say, 2 years. So someone mentioned 1-year contract. If a candidate thought that he or she was coming here for a 1-year contract, that would be difficult for me to convince people to come. That's very risky for a candidate to uproot and come for a 1-year contract. So the standard, I'm saying, is pretty much 3-year, and probably all 3 of us for 3 years to be.
And that will be in the posting, or that's just a given?
No, I heard 1 year, and I wanted to clarify that with you all, that generally.
I doubt anyone's gonna come for 1 year to Hoover.
So,
All right, so 185.
and we'll do a draft, we'll do a mock-up of a draft based on what I've heard you say. Like I said, it'll come out to you, tweak it how you want it, send it back to Susan, you have time until the 17th. Also, the brochure that I mentioned will give highlights of your district, some of the key qualities that you're looking for in this person, and that will come to you also for comment. Jason is working with Susan, getting pictures, et cetera. So just know that those two go out at the same time. And to, I don't know, hundreds of people we send it to.
Any more comments, questions regarding WEMA grants? Anyone else in the audience, any questions about the future superintendent salary? Okay. Fourth, and certainly not least, is qualifications we're looking for in the future superintendent. Now that AASB has made their presentation to us, we have our stakeholder information. Who wants to begin?
say something that's important, you have a leader, he's gonna take care of things that are supposed to be done by his staff or something. So I don't want to diminish anything that I don't mention here, it's very brief, but, be able to lead and support our staff and educators. It doesn't mean education is not important. If your staff is doing their job and you put them in the proper position, they're going to educate their children, or this leader is going to be accountable. I put my glasses on. Position employees where they're best suited. We realize we have some changes in our system. Our superintendent's got to recognize what the strengths are, where people may need moving around, and use them to the best strengths for our system. That's an ongoing challenge. This person must understand structure within our central office and with all our administrators, and on again to the educators. The last few days, I've read and listened to what our community said about the arts. And you realize how important the arts were to me experience. What you learn, what gets your mind thinking, the discipline. Many of you that were at our meeting last night showed pictures that our art students brought in there. It wasn't just the picture. It was the discipline, the thought process that went through their mind, and what did that help them do beyond what was there. Football is great. Trust me. If you go to Orlando, Florida, and walk in with a Hoover shirt on, or a Spank Park if it's baseball, somebody's going to remember the football program most likely. Top 10 in the country, wherever they want to rank it, they're going to recognize you for that. And that's just life. Auburn, Alabama, Tuskegee, Alabama State. You can go down the list. You're going to be recognized for things you do when school's over. It doesn't mean these others aren't important. If someone comes in and says, gosh, I'm going to make sure your football program continues winning championships, probably not going to be high volume. I'm sure my colleagues have some other points, so I won't be much on it.
Mr. Cooper?
Couple thoughts. Lee Iacocca never built a car. He did a pretty good job. He did a good job. And you're taking money for it. Not that we're asking this person not to take money. Clearly, leadership is the key component. And how you ascertain that and an interview and all that, you can do the best you can in terms of trying to vet the person based upon people who know him or her, where they worked previously. Leadership is the key component here, and more so for me, is servant leader. A clear leader who's capable of making decisions with a servant's heart, not above anybody, not dictatorial, but somebody who is receptive and inclusive in everybody's opinion and how we go forward with this. But educational experience in terms of administration and or classroom economics, that is certainly desirable, but I'm not willing to rule out anyone who's a strong leader, who's a visionary, who's got the energy and desire to put some skin in the game, and put their performance up against our expectations.
I'm right in line with Mr. Cooper. Being a great leader encompasses so many different things. It encompasses the word trustworthy that we heard, integrity. It allows people, the leader will allow people to do what they want to do to further the goal. It's not just about telling that person to get sticks and this person to get nails and let's build a boat. It's getting the group to yearn to be able to get out and sail on the open sea. And I think that's what we have to do, is to have a person that can move the entire system, the entire district forward, to yearn for something that's better, and not be willing to settle for just let's get to this point. Let's not have a point. Let's yearn for everything out there, and being a trustworthy leader, being a financial leader, all of that matters. All that matters tremendously. But to be able to instill in our students and our teachers and our community and everybody to reach further and realize that it's not just about building the boat, it's about the experience of sailing in the open seas.
I'll be quick. A person that's passionate and a person that's willing to, we talk about salary a lot, but willing to put their job on the line for students. Not concerned if saying all the right things to the board members, but willing to speak out against things and talk to us about ideas and visions that they have, regardless of how it comes out. For somebody that is bold, that's a person I'm looking for. because the board, we're board of directors, you give us information, we look at it, we evaluate it, we take feedback, and we make a decision up or down. But it's that superintendent's job to be the leader and not be fearful. So a bold, passionate person that you can just see it coming out of them when it comes to kids.
I guess the only thing that I would add, I'm not sure if this is a qualification, but we have made in Hoover City Schools a huge investment in technology, a huge investment in technology. So I want to make sure that the next leader is as passionate and feels as strongly as this board does about moving forward in the technology arena. It is the future. Anybody that's got kids in college or just graduated from college, there are no textbooks. I mean, you walk in to class and it's computers, computers, computers. So a huge investment that we've made. I want to make sure that the next superintendent shares that same dream and drive with the investment that we've made. I want to ask, there's one person, I'm not going to put on the spot, but actually I am going to, that's going to be working hand in hand with him or her. Louisa, you don't have to say anything if you don't want to, but you're always behind the scenes and you keep us afloat. I don't know what we would do without you. You're going to be working with him or her. Is there anything that, just in the time that you worked with Mr. Craig, is there anything that stands out that's important to you? Because we'll be blowing in and blowing out, not you. You're there every single day.
One word that really says it all, in which this man does, that I've witnessed these last few weeks, is communicate. A communicator.
Excellent. And Dr. Race, I've bragged on you over and over again. I know more about the school system in the last few weeks that you've been here than the entire time I've been on board, so there you go. Anybody in the audience? Yes, sir, Mr. Singer.
Something that's actually measurable, that ties many of these elements together, and that would be for Hoover to be granted unitary status. Because it ties together zoning, busing, all the elements that make a great school system a great school system. And it definitely would be measurable. It's something that definitely could and should be achieved within a 3-year period.
Thank you, Mr. Singer. Anybody else in the audience? And last but not least, Dr. Reese, do you have any comments that you'd like to make? We've asked you you came in with a fresh pair of eyes, so you've been here for 6 weeks or so. Any comments?
I enjoy listening to the comments of all the board members. I agree with everything that y'all have said. I would add that, and I'm not saying this to be self-serving or in a boastful way, but it's what I believe in. A leader has to have followers. If you're a leader, you have to have followers, or you wouldn't be a leader. And different leaders have different ways to get people to follow them. And I've seen different leaders with different styles. I've worked with a superintendent who was more authoritative. He was less inclined to involve people, and yet the people had trust in him. And that's a word that appears up here on the screen at times. He was a man of integrity. I worked with him for 30 years. And he made great decisions. And everybody in the school system believed in him and trusted him. I followed him as superintendent. If I had tried to use the same leadership style that he did, I would have fallen flat on my face. A leader has to be himself or herself. So if you're trying to clone a leader, I think that's impossible. thing that I learned in graduate school, going to Auburn University of all places, was that a manager does things right and a leader does the right thing. I was in charge of the vocational department in the enterprise school system one time, and we had an ag teacher. And he was a great ag teacher. He was so involved with the FFA. I mean, he was just one of the best people I've ever worked with. I mean, he worked with them in the FFA band, had a quartet. They would win district competition and state competition. But he couldn't get his reports in on time, his monthly reports in on time. And I would talk to him and try to get those reports in on time. And if I had done things right, I would have probably said, you know, because you can't get your reports in on time, we're going to have to let you go. But if I had done that, I would have thought that I was not doing the right thing because of the impact that he had on so many students. And the number of, and I know some people would disagree with that. Some people would say, if they can't do that, you need to fire them. But did the good that he provided those kids, was that more important than him getting in a report to me an hour late? And so sometimes a manager does things right, a leader does the right thing. And I'm not saying I was a great leader, I am a great leader, but I do know that a superintendent and a person that y'all hire as superintendent ought to always, foremost, say, I'm going to do the right thing. And sometimes that means being criticized. That means going against the grain. That means being chastised. But that means going home tonight and looking yourself in the mirror and saying, I did what I felt like I had to do. Didn't mean to preach a sermon, but
Amen, brother.
Any other comments from anyone from the board? Dr. Beers, yes, ma'am.
Just one thing, we need to know about degree, doctorate, preferred, master's required. We need to put something on the posting regarding that. I can tell you how it's often done, and give you wiggle room. Doctorate preferred, if you say doctorate required, you could be ruling out some of your top-notch leaders.
Understand.
Doctorate preferred sets a high standard, but it doesn't mean that necessarily the person will have a doctorate. It's up to you that that's worked for other districts.
Gentlemen, is that okay? Okay. Is there anything else that you need from us? Okay, so if I understand this correctly, Susan Salter, you will get something to us that this next week. When do we have to have this completely finalized? I think you said the posting starts
The 17th.
the 17th, correct?
Mhm. So I know she was working on some items for the brochure today,
Okay,
so it will be very soon.
okay,
The 17th can be here pretty soon.
okay. All right, so we just need to
Drafts.
expect that. Okay. All right. Is there anything else? Thank you. I know you're a small group tonight, but you're a very passionate group, and I really appreciate, the board appreciates you always attending the meetings, and have a safe trip home tonight. This meeting is adjourned.